Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Favorite Guitar Solos. In the co-captain's chair for this episode, once again, Mr. Guitar Hack himself. Hack, greetings once again to Sea of Tranquility.
Greetings, Pete. Thanks for inviting me, man. Lifeson is one of my favorites, and man, this was hard.
It's hard, you know. We did that like kind of really epic Rush show on your channel a month or so ago, and you know, I've wanted to do Alex Lifeson here on the Favorite Guitar Solo segment, and yeah, this was really hard. I think for me, this was so hard because it's like I have my favorite Rush albums, I have my favorite Rush eras.
Mhm.
Alex's guitar tones and style kind of changed a little bit from decade to decade to decade.
Yes.
And it's like, wow, which one do you prefer, right? And it's like there's great solos in all of them, but like, do you favor the more epic, longer, raw solos from earlier in his career? Do you like the kind of tighter, more modern solos in the middle part of the career? Do you like the kind of return to form somewhat of the older stuff mixed with the newer stuff of the later albums? It's like very hard.
You know, what I learned in going back and actually really focusing in on his soloing is that there's a clear break or delineation, okay, from early to later life. And like early, lots of bluesy rock playing. That's what he was. He was a blues rock player. And, you know, not a lot of effects going on.
Right.
You know, it was 335 straight into the Marshall, right? And that lasted, I'd say, right up until around the permanent waves. And then from that point on, that's when the whammy bars started coming in. That's when he started, you know, not playing like really recognizable blues licks anymore. Now it was almost like he evolved his soloing along with the band and their style. So when they switch gears, his solo style, I found as well, really switched gears. It wasn't like earlier on, they would, you know, I mean, they would set up the solo. It's like, okay, boom, here's a lead break, go. Later on, it was more of a blended thing, you know, it
Yeah.
would be like a part of the song, right? It wasn't like they would I mean, there are songs where they did the setup but a lot of them, it's like, it was almost like within the mix of everything else. There was no real you know, him sort of alone featured, you know, that's what I found. That was interesting, and I never noticed that so much as to when I went back and reviewed it. So
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think like especially a lot of the 80s stuff, it's like it wouldn't be like this long 30-second solo, and he would throw in these kind of cool chord voicings in, a little lead
yeah,
break, lots of whammy bar. And I think, you know, you hit the nail on the head too. It's like in the 70s, he was mainly using 335s and Les Pauls, right, with humbuckers. So you had that big fat
right,
sound. And then
yes,
going into the 80s, he switched to like Strats or Strat style guitars, using the
right,
whammy bar, right? The single coils, lots of effects, a lot of textures. And then it
yeah,
wasn't until, you know, in moving into the 90s and the 2000s, moving back at least occasionally to humbucker driven guitars once again. So
yeah,
kind of weird. And all of his solos kind of went down a similar path following the kind of gear that he's using.
yeah, and it makes sense too, because you think about it, it's from that point later on when the heavy keyboards came in, you know, he had to find another frequency to live at, or his sound was going to get buried. So I don't think he could have stayed in that MIDI tone. So he really had to kind of separate himself, and that's probably a reason why the tone changed. Maybe the guitars changed, the effects came in, and all that, just so that he could be heard literally over these massive keyboard pads that they were laying down at the time. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's interesting.
So, all right. So, in saying all that, as most people can probably imagine, for two guys who love this band, and you know, I love pretty much all their music for the most part. Um, a lot of really good solos, and you know, we've done prior Rush shows in the past, and I've gone on record saying, you know, regardless of what you may think about like the '80s Rush material, there's some really cool guitar solos in a lot of those songs, but they're just very different. And
Yeah,
it's Alex Lifeson in a totally new light. Whether you can kind of accept it and enjoy it as much as the Alex Lifeson of old, that's up to everybody's, you know, personal opinions, but some really cool stuff there. So again, I struggled with this because it's like, well, you know, I lean one way most of the time, but yet I really dig some of this stuff. So I think in going, I had all sorts of examples and all sorts of solos that I was pouring through, and I came up with a list of 10 that I'm pretty happy with, I think. And I think there's a little bit of everything. It may lean a little heavier to one side over the other, but we'll see as we go. So I'm curious to see what you've come up with as well.
Yeah.
So I'll let you start with your number 10.
All right. Well, my number 10, I'm going right back to the beginning. I'm going to the first record, the solo on What You're Doing. Straight ahead. That's like I was saying earlier, they set up the song, here comes the solo. It's a nice big long solo. A lot of bends, that whole bluesy thing, it's Alex being the blues rock, like the bar band guy. That's the bar band blues rock solo. And the tone is great. That album I think sounds really good. It's you know what? There's not one bad Rush sounding record. They all sound really, really good. And even back then. And yeah, straight ahead, long, emotive. All of his solos are always emotive, and he's setting it up and he's playing along with the changes. It's just a great straight ahead rock solo. So yeah, that's my number 10. What You're Doing, first record.
Great choice, and I love that first record. And his tone, I think, is absolutely killer on that album. Right, awesome. Yeah. Lethal. Yeah, we'll talk more about that first record in a little bit, I think. I'm going to go with my number 10 from the Caress of Steel album. I'm going to go with the Necromancer. And that's like one of a couple of instances where he just like goes absolutely batshit for an extended period of time. And, some people may say, well, the Necromancer got half the song as a guitar solo. And it's like, well, there's lots of extended soloing in the song, but it's a nice big epic song. But I love I love his like screaming tone, man. It's like whenever I listen to, especially like the old Alex Lifeson stuff, his solos just scream through your speakers. They're just dripping with, just the right amount of distortion, not a lot, because he never really used a lot, especially on the studio albums. He's got that little bit of that sumptuous delay going on, right? And then you got Geddy's bass in the background just bouncing all over the place, and then Alex just firing off all these like white hot notes, man. It's just great. And then at the end of the solo, because there's two main solos in this song. And at the end, he throws in some kind of real bluesy, almost Southern rock tones to kind of finish out the song. It's just amazing, an amazing display of guitar pyrotechnics from, the early part of his career. And I think we mostly know Alex for these very well constructed, shorter, really memorable solos. Yeah. And I have a lot of those on my list, but I like to go for the throatness of this particular solo here. And it's funny because I think my number 10 and my number 1 are both kind of similar. Also, I do want to say, and I don't know if you have or not, and that if you did, it's fine. I purposefully did not include any instrumentals in my list because I think it would have been, for me, it would have been too easy to do YYZ and La Villa Stranziato and all the other ones. And I'm like, you know what? So I opted not to pick instrumentals, but, and if you did, that's totally cool.
Yeah, I just wish you'd said that earlier because, hey.
But you know what? It's almost good that one of us didn't and one did, because I think you hate to not include them, right?
Oh, man, yeah.
Because if I would have, I know what my top 2 would have been with no question. So I was like, oh man, am I going to go that route here today? I opted not to. I'm totally cool that you did. I'm glad we both didn't. So that's totally fine.
Okay.
And I only made that decision like 2 days ago, so don't worry.
I didn't get the memo. Yeah. So for my number 9 off their most well-known record, Moving Pictures, is Red Barchetta. I mean, just it's the note choice, just the way it starts off, the screaming car kind of sound that he got, again with the whammy bar, just fits the song perfectly. Gives it that whole vibe of like, a car screaming down the highway, whatever. It's a singable solo, right? It's super well constructed, which that's the one thing he has. Like his solos are not random; they're just very, very well tailored to the song. And what I like too about that solo is the way he comes out of it, and the way it meshes right back beautifully into the song. It's just like, again, for me, the mark of any great guitar solo, it's a little song within the song, and that's a great example of that. It takes Red Barchetta and literally just raises it up a notch. Not that not that it isn't a great song already, but it's just that little bit more, you know. And yeah, love Red Barchetta. Yeah,
Yeah, I love your mini song within a song, and I say that all the time too, because that is the mark of a perfect guitar solo. When you
exactly.
can remember whether you play or not, right? You don't need to be a guitar player to know and memorize the notes of a guitar solo. I mean, think of all like the most memorable guitar solos in rock and roll history. Anybody, you don't have to be a musician, can tell and can know and love a well-constructed, memorable guitar solo and hear it in their head, note for note, can hum it, can sing it.
Yeah,
That's a job well done right there. And I think Alex is amazing at that. And I think the Moving Pictures album, I think he perfected that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so my number 9. How about the title track to A Farewell to Kings?
Okay.
Kind of a weird one on my list because it's really short. Okay, it's got these little it's almost like crying notes from him. You know, we talk about the screaming, the crying tone of Alex Lifeson always, and then he throws in these little like rapid fire flutter of notes, you know, and he's really good at that when he wants to as well. And then he finishes it off with these really melodic lines that are just ultra memorable, and again ultra hummable. And again, it's one of his short. It's a weird, because it's like this weird grand majestic song that's really not about like guitar fills or leads, and he throws in this quick little thing that's
Right.
just so memorable. And I just absolutely love it. And I think without it, the song wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be complete. So not one of his longer ones, maybe not the most technically amazing solo, but I think it's just perfect in its simplicity and its shortness, and it just fits in the song so well.
Cool, cool. Yeah, so for my number 8, this is off of Signals, Weapon. I mean, the way that song, the way he comes out, like there's a whole sort of an instrumental thing going on with a lot of keyboards and a lot of layers, and he's sort of like, just again, like I was saying earlier, kind of playing stuff within the, within the landscape of all the, all that's going on, and then it kind of builds into a crescendo, and then like it's just the arrangement of the song is just, I mean, it blows me away every time I hear it. Then all of a sudden, Neil Peart starts playing on the beat, and his solo kicks in at that moment. I mean, it's just amazing, arranging of a song. And it comes in solid with the beat, and it's it kind of they're almost serving it up. I was saying earlier, like I like when they serve up the solo, and that change, that beat change with him coming in just serves up that solo beautifully. And it's just, again, it's just a great sounding lead, fits the song, takes the song to the next level. But for me, what I like the most out of it is how it literally comes out, like how they set it up. It's all this sort of stuff going on, and then he just sort of comes out with, with a straight lead, and everybody backs off. It's just a beautiful example of songwriting and arranging, and his solos bang on.
Yeah,
So
that's a
that,
really good one. That whole album is just chock full of them.
yeah, yeah, it's great. It's
And you
great.
know, it's funny, like talking about a band like this, and you know, we both already we're just a couple in. We've already mentioned Neil and Geddy and how
Yeah,
their parts are so important in providing the bedrock for Alex launching into these things. That just goes to show you the synergy between these three guys.
yeah,
Really unlike any other band I think we've ever seen ever.
oh, yeah, yeah. Amazing musicianship, amazing, and songwriting and arranging and all that. I mean, they got all this stuff going on, and it works. You know what I mean? It works, and there's a movement to it. It's just, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. I was watching a clip the other day from, geez, it had to have been from 75. I don't know, it was really early on. I think it was from the Fly By Night tour, live clip from like, a small venue. Neil had just joined the band. They're playing Anthem, and I'm just watching it. I'm looking at how comfortable he looked in the band so early on. And Alex looks so young, and Geddy looks so young. And I'm like, God, those guys were great from like the moment they all got
Yeah,
together. It's like, like Neil replaced John in the band, and they just boom, took off. They're all kids and just, it's amazing, right? When you
Yeah,
think
it's incredible.
amazing.
We talked about this a little bit when we did the Rush on my channel. Like, I mean, you know, and in reading Martin's books, I mean, the theme that keeps popping into my head is like destiny, man. You know what I mean? Those three guys growing up in the same area, meeting each other. It's just that, I mean, that's if that's not an example of destiny, I don't know what is, man.
It was destiny, and there was the will and desire to be special.
Yes,
They
yeah.
were.
And they all had the same mindset and the same, you know, the same approach to music. And yeah, I
Yep.
mean,
And they
just
kept it going for all those years.
yes.
Crazy, right? All right, we're up to number 8. I'm going to go to the Permanent Waves album for Jacob's Ladder.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you know, this one's a little bit different compared to some of the stuff that I've already picked. I mean, here he's tossing in all those pinch harmonics, which, you know, these are not like the Zakk Wylde pinch harmonics. These are the Alex pinch harmonics, right? A little bit different. And, you know, a lot of bluesy bends in this. And then, you know, it like kind of moves and sways for a little bit. And then he goes into that whole dun, 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 and that melody line that we all remember. It's just like, what a great solo in a great song. It's one of my favorite Rush songs of all time. And I think the solo is just so dramatic. And he shows like a little bit of what he was about and puts it all in one, you know, 35 minutes solo or whatever, however long it is. And it just works so well. So Jacob's Ladder, my number 8.
Well, so here's the first of my instrumentals. Moving pictures again. YYZ.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another one where the solo is just served up on a platter, man. They just set it up beautifully. And, you know, I mean, the song is about Toronto Airport, and, you know, he's doing this, basically trying to play, you know, the different cultures and, you know, the countries and all that sort of thing that you know, destinations you'd find in an airport, and he serves up that nice Eastern feel, you know, in his lead. And man, that descending run at the end, I mean, come on, like the little hairs on the back of your neck stand up when you hear that. It's absolute perfection. Talk about coming out of a solo, like, and perfectly and meshing right back into the song, you know. And then there's those little accent pieces, like he'll play a phrase and they got that smashing glass accent, you know. It's amazing. It's such a good solo. It fits that song perfectly. You know, again, it tells a story without any lyrics. It's a song within a song, all that kind of stuff. Starts off great, and again, the ending is just masterful. Absolutely masterful.
And
Love
again,
that.
you listen to what Neil and
Oh
Gary
yeah.
doing around him there. I mean, it's just mind blowing what the three of them are doing in that song.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, you know, when that album came out, I don't know, honestly, at the time I'm talking about, I don't know if I had heard anything like an instrumental song from like a heavy rock band like that ever at the time.
Yeah.
Not that I can think of. I mean, you know, we've seen stuff in its wake out, obviously, after that, you know, obviously
Yeah.
bands like, you know, Dream Theater and Fates Warning and, you know, countless other bands. But for 1980, 1981, I mean, was there another band that could pull off something like that?
That was next level stuff, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, me coming from Kiss and hearing YYZ, it's
Yeah, Kiss was not going to do YYZ type stuff.
doing YYZ. No. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Stuff. All right, let's see. All right, so I'm going to throw a live track in here. So I'm going to go for my number 7 to the All the World's a Stage album, By Tor and the Snow Dog.
Okay.
Which, you know, I mean, I was originally going to pick it from the Fly By Night album, and then I was like, oh, but I think I like the live version even better. So even if you take out the drum solo in that, it has a nice lengthy guitar solo, and he's using delay and wah-wah like to absolute perfection. I mean, he loved those two effects pedals, and man, did they work so well together. And it's got, you know, the ending to the solo is just absolutely blistering. To the point of like he's just exploding. And I love when he just kind of goes for it like that. And this live album, a lot of that on here, but even on the studio version, it's fantastic as well. And it's just like I said, it's just got the right amount of delay. He never overuses it, and man, he just kicks in that wah pedal and fantastic stuff. So My Tour on the Snow Dog, number 7 for me.
So you didn't include any instrumentals in your list. I didn't include any live stuff on mine. So
okay. we're balancing nicely. Yeah,
we're even. Okay, so for my number 6, I went right to the most recent, Clockwork Angels, The Garden.
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. That's
holy shit. Just again, another one of those where the song is so super melodic. I mean, that first note, the tone that he has for that song is absolute perfection, just fits the mood. The song is already beautiful to begin with, and you think, well, it's like you know what it reminds me of? It's like, the Stairway to Heaven solo. I mean, you get this amazing song, like how much better can it be? And then that solo comes in. Yeah. That for me is The Garden, right? It's like, it's such a gorgeous tune, and then he kicks in just those the tone, those haunting notes, just absolutely beautiful. What else did I write here? His phrasing. I should have mentioned this earlier. He's got the absolute best phrasing. It's not a bunch of notes. He's making clear statements. They lets them sink, and then he goes on to the next one. Just very well done, super well constructed, like all the solos are. And again, it takes an amazing, gorgeous song and just elevates it. I mean, that song, that solo, so perfectly constructed. The tone that he you could tell he's playing a Les Paul on that. The tone is gorgeous. It just suits that song beautifully, and it's amazing. Perfect solo.
Yep, that's a great choice. Yeah, I gotta echo your sentiments about phrasing. I mean, not a wasted note ever. And even when he's on the occasion where he fires off some rapid fire stuff, he's not wasting notes. It's like, I love him, but Yngwie sometimes is just, it's like a little too much, right? It's like, save a little bit for the next song, dude. Whereas I think like Alex, it's just, man, it sounds exactly like what you want to hear. He's not wasting anything. He's not giving you too much, not too little. It's always absolutely perfect in the way that you expect to hear it. And I think that's, it goes a long way.
Well, I think a lot of that is sort of where he's coming from, right? He's coming from like the Jimmy Page school, right? Like Jimmy Page is like one of his biggest influences. So he's got that thing where I'm not going to play a million notes. I'm going to play notes that count. So, and then the whole phrasing thing, it just works beautifully together, man.
Yep. All right. Number 6 for me. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Working Man from the first album. I mean, it's just awesome 70s bluesy heavy rock, right? That's what it's all about. And that's what this album is all about. That's what his tone is all about. It's just raw. It's got plenty of emotion. It's just, man. And you can tell, you listen to, especially this song, you can tell that he was listening to Page. You can hear a little bit of Iommi in there. You can hear a little bit of maybe like really early Michael Schenker, because Michael Schenker around this time was already hitting in the Scorpions and probably just joining UFO at the time. But again, it's a product of its time, right? It's early to mid 70s, heavy, crunchy blues rock. And he makes a statement on this album. It's like the riffs on this album are great. The solos are just friggin' blistering and just so much fun to listen to. And if you're someone who loves that early 70s heavy rock sound, man, this album has just got loads of great playing on it.
It's a great record, man. Front to back, that album is one of the best straight ahead, like you say, rock records. Like, I mean, it's a bar band. They have that whole bar band vibe, but like the best bar band you've ever heard in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a Gibson guitar through a Marshall amp, right? It doesn't get much better than that, right?
No, and I'm a Gibson guy, as you can tell. Yeah. But he move out of the way, show their guitar. Yeah. So for my number 5. This is one of my all-time favorite songs to begin with. So it's like, this was very easy. Xanadu. Absolutely love Xanadu off Farewell to Kings. There's that nice long solo at the end. Again, then in that period, you could still hear that sort of bluesy vibe in his playing, just these nice notes, bluesy bends, nice vibrato, very emotive. I mean, the phrasing, oh man, everything is just awesome. And the guitar tone, like again, going back to Gibson. And yeah, I mean, they were already doing the really complicated stuff, but he was still playing that same bluesy type style of playing. There was no whammy bar and chorus and all that.
Yeah.
It was still nice, clear guitar tone. Like you could hear it, hear the notes and not a lot of things going on. And yeah, man, just a fantastic solo. Love the solo. Love Xanadu, period. But that solo just again takes a gorgeous song and just makes it even better. So yeah, Xanadu for me is my number 5.
It's a testament to this guy and all these great guitar solos that, Xanadu is arguably my favorite Rush song of all time. And this is not on my list.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's how much I struggle with this. So it's like there's some songs that I just love that have great guitar solos, but man, he's got so many good ones. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm like, God, yeah, I left that off my list. And there's obviously a reason for it, right? But anyway.
It was tough, man.
Very tough. It's very tough. So my number 5, I'm gonna go to the Signals album, which like you mentioned before, and like we talked about, there's some really good playing on this album, even though this is not a heavy guitar album, but still he injects a lot of cool stuff on here. And I'm going to go with Subdivisions. Just such a tasty solo. It's short, but it's sweet. I love, here's where he's experimenting with doing these harmonics, okay, and hitting the whammy bar and getting all these kind of cool little, like, ultra melodic but very memorable sounds, like the less is more type of thing, which he would do throughout the decade. And I just think it's a perfectly crafted solo. And again, it sounds so perfect for that segment of the song. I mean, we talk about, a dramatic song, which Subdivisions is, and you got these synths and keyboards, Geddy's doing his thing. And then all of a sudden in comes Alex's solo, which at first sounds like it's going to rampage. And then he hits a couple of harmonic notes. He hits the whammy bar. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, cool little sounds. Oh, this is a little different. Not your typical Alex Lifeson, but as he would prove throughout the decade, is like, you know what? I'm going to experiment and I'm going to do some cool stuff like this, because
Yeah.
the nature of our music is kind of driving me in that direction, right? Because you're not going to do typical 70s style Alex Lifeson guitar solos in this new 80s music that they're doing. It just doesn't fit, right? So he had to reinvent himself. And I think this Subdivisions, his solo there, is kind of like the perfect example of, and I think he did it a little bit earlier too on the Moving Pictures album, which I'll get into in a couple minutes, that I think he was already starting down that road. But yeah, that's my number 5, Subdivisions.
You could tell he was definitely evolving around that time. And the other thing too that, we kind of mentioned it, but man, he always found the right tone, for the song that he was playing in. You know what I mean? Like, it was his tone would always match beautifully with what was going on around, which would have been, again, at that point, very challenging, because it's not just guitar, it's not just bass and drums. Now I got to compete with this, keyboards and all of this. And he always managed to find a way to make a statement. So
yeah, and during that time period, you had a couple of guys who were really working hard to do that. I mean, he was one of them. You got to give credit, obviously, to Andy Summers from the Police.
oh yeah,
Got it. Adrian Belew and Robert Fripp and King Crimson were also trying some new sounds. And then, whether you love them or not, Edge from U2 also was trying to incorporate lots of different things in rock guitar. So all these guys were really experimenting and moving away from your traditional guitar solo type thing, but proving that you still can be a virtuoso in this kind of new music that's coming out in the decade that was the 80s.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so for my number 4, for Caress of Steel, Lakeside Park.
Good choice.
Yeah, man.
I almost picked that one as well.
Again, It's a beautiful song. It's one of my favorite Rush songs. It comes in a little bit early, comes in kind of mid-song. Very bluesy feel, but very lyrical, super melodic. The phrasing again is amazing. And it's nice where it comes in the song because it kind of breaks it up really, really, again, going back to their arranging, I mean, it just breaks up the song beautifully where they place it, and yeah. It almost, because of where it's placed, it almost plays like another verse in the song. Do you know what I mean? And again, he takes that song, which is already amazing, and just raises it. And his note choice is amazing, and he does a lot of these little staccato notes, and it just it's great. It's lyrical. It adds to the song. His phrasing is amazing. It's a beautiful song, and it's made even better by that solo.
Yep.
So Lakeside Park for me for number 4.
Work of art. I totally agree with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I was looking at that, and I was looking at the Necromancer from Caress of Steel. I'm like, I got to go with one of these.
Right.
All right. Another one of, I was just talking about how Xanadu, one of my all-time favorite songs, and I did not include the solo in this list. One of my other favorite Rush songs of all time is on this list, and that's Anthem from Fly By Night. I love Anthem. Man, and it's one of their heaviest tracks. I think it's just, man, such a bruiser. And his solo here, I mean, he's just, again, he's stepping. I'm assuming he was using a Crybaby. Maybe he used the Vox. I'm not really sure, but it's tons of wah-wah, lightning fast hammer-on and pull-offs, right? And just absolutely screaming notes. I mean, it doesn't get more screaming than on this solo here. And it's just such a juggernaut of a track, and he's just rampaging. This is like the Alex Lifeson go for the jugular guitar solo, and I just love it. It's like, you hear it and you're like, oh yeah, so good. So that's my number 4, Anthem.
All right. Well, for my number 3, I'm going back to Caress of Steel. So this is Bacchus Plateau, that section. That solo, it starts off, he's playing all these nice little trills at the beginning. Again, it's super melodic. Has kind of a little, it's almost like a little playful vibe, because you got that those mellow chords going against the background. And it's another one of those solo. And again, I love it when they serve up the solo. It's like, okay, here it comes, and you kind of sit, all right, here, come on, blow me away, Alex. And he does. And the phrasing is amazing again. It's just such a nice little piece on its own. Melodic, playful, note choice. It's amazing. I love that solo off of Fountain of Lamneth. Yeah, beautiful.
Fountain of Lamneth is great.
Yeah.
I really, really dig Caress of Steel. I think that of all the Rush albums, because I've been listening to these guys since I was a kid. I think for me, the album of theirs that has gained the most popularity within me has been Caress of Steel. I think Caress of Steel and Grace Under Pressure are the 2 albums that I think have really risen the ranks as far as my enjoyment of them over the last like 20, 25, 30 years or so.
Yeah, Grace Under Pressure for me has slightly gone up a few notches. Yeah.
But Caress of Steel, man, and it's an album that like most fans never talk about. It's like you have the hardcore group that love it and have always loved it, but most people like they go from Fly By Night and they skip right over to 2112. They're like, oh yeah, Caress of Steel, that's an album with all those long tunes on it, the little real complicated dark stuff, yeah, blah blah blah. But man, Caress of Steel kills.
I think we talked about this on my show a couple weeks back, but and I think we both agree on this. I like Hemispheres better than I like 2112.
I do too.
Yeah. So so you never know, because 2112,
it's great. But that's the one that everybody gravitates towards, right? But I personally listen to Hemispheres and Farewell to Kings more than I listen to 2112.
Yeah, me too.
It's just personal preference. I love 2112, but I like those albums a little better. So.
Yeah. Well.
All right, where are we at now? Number 3, right?
No, I was my number 3.
Well, that was so you got so I'm at number 3, right?
Okay. You're at number 3.
Here's my CD. Okay, I'm going to go back to the Permanent Waves album. This for me, you know, my especially my next two choices are what a lot of people may pick as the kind of prototypical, memorable, classic Alex Lifeson guitar solo, and I can't argue that at all. Free Will.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's again, it's one of those Alex solos where you, whether you're a musician or not, or a guitar player or not, you know that solo. You've heard this song plenty of times, and it's just a perfect solo, and it's Lifeson shredding, but so melodic. It's just such an incredible, incredible solo. His use of the wah wah again. He's doing the pinch harmonics. He's just blazing. You know, it's beautiful stuff. We all know it. We all love it for a reason.
Yeah. So my number two, we were talking about Farewell to the Kings a moment ago. This is the perfect solo. It's the perfect solo. It's constructed beautifully. The construction of it, the way it sits in the song, it's served up closer to the heart, man. Closer to absolute perfection. Fits perfectly musically. It's and then he does that. There's a part, and then he's playing right along with the music, right along with the chords. He does this beautiful little walk up that sounds great. It's again a song within a song. It Closer to the Heart is a great song, and that solo and it's a nice lengthy solo too, and it just extends that solo, or extends it, takes that song and just makes it even that much better. It's perfection. It is absolute perfection, that solo. You can't play,
it's so memorable.
You cannot play a better solo to that song than what he put on that song. Phrasing, note choice, playing along with the changes. It's a perfect little composition, super well constructed.
And you know, while you're talking, I'm just kind of hearing in my head, it's like dan, 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 dun, da, 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 da. It's
yeah, exactly. You can listen to the song, you can hear the note, you can hear the notes in your head. That's a testament to how great it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so my next one is my part two of, I think, his most perfectly constructed solos within like a regular song format. And this one for me was, I think, the solo that got him ready for everything that was going to come in the 80s for himself as a player. Limelight from Moving Pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, he's just right from the beginning, he's got that note and he's pulling on the bar, and then he's hitting those harmonic notes, and you just, and then he just starts with the fast flurry stuff, and just more bar pulling, and it's so dramatic, it's so perfect. And what's crazy is, like, I've seen them live a bunch of times, and I've obviously seen many Blu-rays and DVDs of live performances, and man, he nails that solo exactly every single time, and it's just as chilling to watch and listen to as the first time you heard it on the album, all those years ago. Such a wonderfully constructed solo, just love it.
Yeah, it matches the music. It gives you that, that sort of haunting isolation feel, those first couple of notes that he plays. Yeah, I think he's a master.
Yep.
All right, well, this is my number one, and it's an instrumental.
It would have been my number one if I was going to include it. It would have. That was my problem. I was like, well, if I'm going to include instrumentals, I know what the 1 and 2 is going to be without even doing the rest of this exercise. So
yeah.
But I'm glad you picked it, though, because it needs to. Someone needs to talk about it here today.
How can you do any better than La Villa Strangiato from Hemispheres?
You can't.
I mean, that's a slow burn. Right.
Actually, you could do it one better. You can pick from Exit Stage Left Alive album, because for me, that's the definitive version of it.
Oh, is that okay? Well, I stayed away from the live album.
I know, but
it's the slow build, man. It's just, he's doing those volume swells, and he's coming in really slow. It's super emotive, and it's got that nice bluesy feel again, right? Hitting those bends, the volume swells, and what's really makes, because it's a long solo, and he makes amazing use of just dynamics. There's so many dynamics in that, right? Like, he'll play quietly, he'll play a little louder. That's what I mean about emotive. Like, it's, he puts the listener into a frame of mind, in that solo, and then he just at the end he just goes nuts and delivers the goods. That is Alex Lifeson at his best, that solo for sure.
It is.
You know,
And it's probably one of the most dramatic, slow build guitar solos in all
yeah.
of hard rock. It's
Any solo that long that holds your interest
yeah.
is, come on. I mean, yeah, it's Alex at his best. Masterful, absolutely masterful.
Yeah.
That's my number one.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, that would have been my number one if I didn't make the decision to take out instrumental stuff. So because of that decision, I almost did not include my number one choice. But it's not an instrumental, but it's a long song that's divided into sections, and parts of the sections or parts of the song are instrumental. But I said, so I had Limelight was actually my number one. Then I was like, you know what? I can't deny this one. And how I'm going to do it is I'm going to actually talk about 3 solos in the song. So I'm talking about, and I'm going to pick the live version from All the World Stage. I'm going to talk about, it's 2112.
Okay.
So my original choice was, during the overture, all right, which is that just, it's incredible. It's just, again, this is explosive early Alex. But then, he comes back at like the 13-minute mark and he destroys once again. There's like 3 amazing solo sections in this. And then he only betters those first 2 pieces. Like if you think you've heard it all in the overture, you think you heard it all at like the halfway mark, then at like the 17-minute mark, he comes in with some of the gutsiest, most heart-wrenching, screaming notes that I think I've ever heard from, like that early part of his career. And it's like savage Alex Lifeson. And this song just keeps building and building and building and building. And to me, that's like, if we're looking at like the first like 5 albums, that's kind of like the pinnacle for me of Alex Lifeson. But as we would see, he would go off and do probably even just as much mind-blowing stuff, just in a different way, even over on Hemispheres and on Farewell to Kings, and then into Permanent Waves, all that kind of stuff. It's all impressive. It's all just a little bit different. But I think we've talked about a lot of different styles and solos here over the course of the program, and all of it's just prime Alex Lifeson in the end.
Yeah. The one I left off of my list that would have literally bubbling underneath would be the Limelight solo. I left that one off, and I mean, maybe because I've heard it too many times, I don't know, but that would have been probably my my next one. The other one I should mention, if we're gonna get to notable mentions, is off the first record. I love the solo to In the Mood.
Yeah, that's real good, isn't it? No, because that's like kind of like good time rock and roll kind of solo, right?
Yeah, it's good time rock and roll, and there's some really cool little riffs that he's doing in that just fit that song so nicely. That's another one that was like it was between that and Limelight for like a number 11, 12 kind of thing, just literally just barely there.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ones that I considered. I mean, Chemistry from Signals I was looking at. The Distant Early Warning was another one that I was considering. I mean, just there's so many good ones. There's too many. I mean, I purposely didn't want to, because a lot of times I'll put together like these lengthy honorable mention lists, and it's like, oh man, I could name like every freaking song they ever recorded, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and then there's like, I mean, if you talk about the parts that he's put, that he's put into songs that don't really have a guitar solo, but they just have these amazing guitar parts. I mean, that list is endless, all through the 80s and in the 90s, and that even on some of the Clockwork Angel stuff, some of the riffs the guys putting in those songs are just holy shit, man.
Yeah.
You can't really call them solos because they're part of the song, but man, talk about making parts up. This guy is just so musical. It's crazy, just crazy.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right, because like especially like in a lot of the 80s stuff in the early 90s, it's like they're not like traditional solos per se. He would do these like kind of a couple lines here, then he would throw in these kind of chord voicings, and he would go back and do a couple little lead fills, then he'd go back to the chords, I'm thinking like Red Sector A and all kind of stuff like that, right? But man, just so much great stuff.
Yeah.
Another song I was considering too is Animate from Counterparts. I like the Counterparts album a lot. That's a really good one on there. So just there's so many.
Lots. Great guitar player, man.
Yep. So there you have it, everybody. You got 10 choices from each of us for our favorite guitar solos from Mr. Alex Lifeson from Rush. You know the drill, everybody. In the comments below, let's hear what some of your favorite guitar solos are from this great Rock and Roll Hall of Fame player, right? They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he will go down as one of the greatest of all time, I believe. And so put it in the comments. We'll check them out. We'll be monitoring those comments to see what everybody thinks, and make sure you visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Hack, you want to let everybody know where they can find you here on the internet of all things?
Yeah, there's a Guitar Hack channel. So just if you want to YouTube search Guitar Hack, I've got plenty of lots of videos. I got original music. I've got Pete on the show like 3 times now or something. Pete's been on a few times.
Track, yeah, something like that.
Something like that. There's gear. There's shows with musicians, all kinds of stuff. Just check it out, Guitar Hack.
Sounds good. And in case you missed it, Hack was on the show a couple weeks back. We did
appreciate that.
Similar type thing with Ace Frehley. So make sure you don't miss that.
That's right.
You can get a chance to check it out. And he will be back once again in the near future. So stay tuned for that. And thanks everybody for watching. Have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Cheers.